Yeah. All right, bridges. Mr. Bozeman is supposed to join us remotely, but he's not here. But after our discussion last week, our own Ms. Walters took a very cautious and admirable step of sending.
Ascending.
Do anything.
Of sending me her e-portfolio just to make sure it was working. And guess what? It was. So the worst that happens is you get my response to Mrs. Walters. It works. All right? So I don't, make sure it works. And I can't help you if you have an internet problem. Because Cox or whoever you're using. Well, we should all move to South Korea because they have much faster internet, much more reliable, and much less expensive.
More sensory though.
Yeah, a few other drop-ins maybe.
Well, it's a long way over there. When you get there, there's North Korea.
But the internet really.
I stood there and looked at it. I looked across the DMZ. It's the only place I've ever been where these subways are designed so you can put guns or gun slots in the subways.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
That's scary.
Well, you never know when Kim Jong, whatever his name, decides, we're gonna go over there and get him. But anyway, yes. So, Panopto, do we have some Panopto reflections that were due?
We submitted those already.
Pardon me?
We did submit them already. We sure tried.
Step away from the Coke bottle.
Oh my God.
Because all I heard was mumbling,
It
so.
says we submitted those already.
Yes, we did. And if you submitted them properly and I was able to view them, if you go to your grade book, you should see a score. Do you all have a score?
Yes.
Now, that may be an error on the operator's part. Seems to me, I remember getting yours, but I didn't put a grade in.
I didn't see one. I checked last night.
Well, we don't want to do that anymore. Send it to me one final time.
Okay.
I will make sure that a grade is posted. Anybody else facing that issue? Okay, terrific. We're going to be using the R-Cloud tonight. Why don't you go ahead and log on? Just to make sure.
Log on to the iCloud?
But we've shared similar iCloud issues.
Like,
I don't.
you don't have an account?
No, it was getting it operational. But I discovered there were a few steps to making it operational, which I didn't know. You have to download various things
I have
beyond
a
just logging on.
CQ.
The Citrix thing comes on automatic.
Citrus.
Really?
You're killing me.
No, I definitely had some issues because they said,
Well,
Variety.
are you logged on yet?
I'm,
No.
yes,
On R-Cloud.
on our cloud,
Perfect,
yes.
perfect.
That's so awesome. I am here. I arrived.
Don't make Tony Romo's coming in a slinger.
Those Cowboys.
Seriously,
When you don't have less than a minute to play, tie it up, don't kick off to the Giants and let them run it back on the shorts. To a guy who used to play for only last year. You just don't. Okay. R-Cloud. You have R-Cloud issues, Ms. Carn? Are you logging
I
on?
think I wanted that right.
Yeah.
We're going to be using the R-Cloud tonight. You don't have,
And then your regular.
I should have.
No.
Everything, yeah.
no one should, but how many folks were able to make the October 14th event?
It was great.
Yes.
She was wonderful.
Who said that?
Me?
Can you elaborate?
Yes.
What made it great, Ms. Viva?
Okay, so we have some key speakers. Well, a key speaker, she was like the lady from the school department.
What was her name?
Begins with a D or something. I don't remember.
De Los
Thank you.
Thank you. That was close.
Doris.
Yes. And she gave some good insight into like the problems that's going on into the school system and what she's doing to help fix it. Dr. Hall, he was great too, good speaker. People won awards. Food.
That's true.
Yeah. And then we found out who's on. Yeah. So that was pretty awesome.
Speaking of which, when's the first board meeting?
When you get back from San Diego.
Okay, that's next semester. We can talk about that. No, I'm playing.
December.
She'll be back from San Diego for next semester.
Oh.
We'll be only there like for a week.
So keep it
Oh, which reminds me, December 8th, you'll be in San Diego.
I'm back December 8th.
Oh, you're indeed. It's only 3 hours.
That's only 3 hours.
Time difference.
Oh,
So that's not much jet lag. You can make it if you wish to see the capstone presentations, which are scheduled for the evening of Tuesday, December 8th. Got a room yet to be announced, but it'll be on here, 150. So you'll get to see folks, if you come, who were where you are right now in 501. Some of them did what I recommended about connecting their capstone to 501. Some who made a slight change, circumstances unforeseen. But that's December 8th, approximately 6 p.m. Now, Mrs. Ford is not with us.
Good to go now.
It's working. Ms. Devlin?
Yeah.
Do you still have the arcloud issues?
No, I have solved.
Okay.
You haven't got your ID, have you?
I have not.
I'm pretty certain I got it upstairs,
Oh,
so
great.
you're done, come upstairs to the third floor, room 05, I'll walk it over to you.
Wait a minute. What kind of ID?
Student ID card.
Does anybody else need one? Everybody else got
I
one?
was just gonna say, look familiar, I think it's been sitting in my drawer for like ever.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone else in here should have one.
Yeah, except for Lauren Meadows, I let you know that it is here, and she still hasn't seen it on it yet.
Okay. I'll remind you.
I unfortunately have to go.
It doesn't work. Which one?
The-
I think if the other is try the
What was I saying?
one. Try.
We're just gonna move
Try the
around
one with.
for distraction.
Yes,
Well,
it does, it means
capstone
nothing. This
presentations.
PowerPoint means nothing. Yes, PowerPoint. Yes, December 8th,
At 6 o'clock?
it's roughly 6. Oh, I know, I was gonna say, Mrs. Flores not here, so we'll have to start early to make sure that there's some snackage, as Mrs. Flores used to call it. So that you folks, if you decide to come, can have some refreshment and finger foods and so on. And Mr. Bojan will not be there,
No tip service.
so, no tips. But water should be in plentiful supply of bottles. We'll work on that. So, now, March 2. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Although I think most of the time, luck, as you know, by the way, that's a nice shirt.
Doctor.
I just, huh? I can get you one of those. You got plenty, right?
Yep. A
Your
whole
color,
full.
it looks, it's just, isn't that a lovely color?
Yes.
Yeah.
More or less.
That kept
It
second.
it better be,
Oh, March 2nd.
March 2nd. I had a meeting scheduled some months ago with the folks from MAD, Mothers Against Drug Abuse.
I logged in.
No problem.
Right.
Wait.
So I met with them at the beautiful Blue Kangaroo, which I kept calling the Blue Parrot. There's probably only one person in this room, me, who knows what that means.
Isn't that on a team?
Well, the red parrot in Newport is fun.
Have you ever seen the motion picture Casablanca?
That's throwback.
No, that's the way the Cowboys play. Casablanca is a classic film. It's in the top 10 of the AFI, top 100. You've never seen it? Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Really
It's like it's that other movie with, one of the best movies of all times is, the guy, he had like it's like Annabelle on the, I forgot the name of the movie.
Rosebud.
Well, yeah,
Rosebud.
Rosebud.
It's a sled.
Sled. So it's probably up there with that. Okay, so that's, okay. I'm going down there.
At the Jack Lantern Spectacular, there was a pumpkin for Casablanca. Okay, just there last night, fun fact.
Is that the freaking movie I
Well,
like?
Humphrey Bogart's character sells Cafe Americain to Sidney Greenstreet's character, who owns the Blue Parrot.
Oh.
And so that's in my head, not the Blue Kangaroo. And it just, it made me think, maybe somebody who named that must have been hallucinating. Anyway, it was a lovely and delightful morning, and I met the executive director of MAD, who is interested in project related to some data that he has put together, all kinds of data, which we would have to make some sense out of. And I said, that sounds like something we might use as a fallback position. In some cases, capstone presentations fall through, for we have a data set to work with, and by golly, we might be able to help. And then I said, you have a victims services unit, right? Yes. Those people are in crisis, are they not? Yes.
Oh.
Bingo. A match made in heaven. So we've got the Mothers Against Drunk Driving for March 2.
Eric Kluber.
The very one. You know him? Make a phone call to remind him.
Okay.
Tell him that you're really looking forward to his presentation
I
and/or
will.
any colleagues that I announced it in class. Well, this will be solid.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Anytime.
So speaking of drunk drivers,
What?
I wasn't one, but there was that tragedy in Stillwater, Oklahoma, on Saturday morning,
Oh, yeah.
which came across the radio as I was tailgating. Some woman, who they charged with DUI, although her lawyer says, according to the Oklahoma Paper, she wasn't drunk.
She won't.
Well, she was accelerating through the crowd.
Wow.
She killed 4 people, including an infant.
Yeah.
She injured another 46. And she's in county jail. She may be nuts, but it's Oklahoma. The bar for being nuts is really high. And as soon as they figure out what drugs they want to give these people, she could, 25 years to life minimum, but it was just so unnecessary. I don't know what demon possessed her, but it was awful. And I don't like Stillwater. And I don't like Oklahoma State. And I don't like Orange and Black. But I don't want them dead. That's just not right. So, we continued to tailgate, and then we went out and beat Texas Tech 63-27. It was a wonderful afternoon. So we have that on March 2. May 4. Aha! It is in writing. Elizabeth Roberts has committed to us. Tell your friends and neighbors,
Wonderful.
I want the room packed.
What is the time frame for that? Is it a full day conference?
Say
Fairly close to it. I'm gonna try to talk her into coming here that evening.
Say 8:30
But it'll be 9:15-ish, 9-ish, if you want a continental, what do you call it? Breakfast. Thank you very much. And I'm not gonna ever give a lecture unless Ms. Beam is in the room. You know, at the October 14th thing, it was the first time I've ever written down what I was gonna say. I've never done it,
Why did you write it down?
because I couldn't remember. It's prednisone, it's awful, I hate this stuff. And it doesn't really help. So Elizabeth Roberts, I sent her my confirmation letter. Okay, here's where we're gonna be. It's going to be on the Bristol campus this year. Yeah, not in the hinterlands. It's gonna be at the Mary Steph White Center in the library, which is in the building in the middle of the campus with the clock. It's always neat, I've found, to have libraries in the middle of the campus, because it's the heart of the university. And then we will be having luncheon, as they say here in the room, in the brand new sailing center located only hundreds of feet from the library down the hill on the bay with a beautiful view of the water and all sorts of buffet goodies. Bring your freezer bags. That's what Mrs. Flora and I always do, or did. I will continue. So, and the Ashland people are gonna be there, so it's gonna be good. So, come.
So the format, for those of us who are new, is it a, like one bunnering session or multiple conference sessions? Or
Interesting you should ask me. What we usually have is a keynote speaker at a plenary type session. And the Mary Tiff White Center, I'm told, has, they can put up walls, collapsible walls, and it seats about 120, which I would love to see. So we would have Ms. Roberts from approximately 9:30 to approximately 10, followed by Q&A, and then some snackage, coffee. And then we would have one of two options. You know, our own Ms. Walters and Ms. Zapata took the lead in negotiating. We're changing assignments. Sucking extra credit. And as you know, if you were to October 14th, I'm more than willing to grant extra credit.
They've been recruited.
So the panel is coming together starting on Sunday next.
This Sunday, actually.
That's
At
the
10
next
a.m.
Sunday, it's like Sunday next.
3 sisters.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is,
3 sisters, 10 a.m.
aren't they, didn't they used to be in East Providence?
New Providence, New Providence.
If you can't make any money.
Do you want to do that?
They're right there on Broadway and
Right.
Warren Evans.
Present. We have to put together the.
Yeah, we went there, we kept there.
Oh, I didn't know you were in
Yeah.
Providence.
So we're meeting this out.
So where's
We're
it?
talking about it before
Three
class.
sisters.
We're
It's
meeting
now,
this Sunday at 3
right at
sisters
the
at
end
10
of the
a.m.
boulevard, but it's on Brook Street.
The Boulevard.
Near India, where Blackstone.
In Providence.
Our Blackstone and Hope come together.
Yeah, just past the big park.
In that little mall area.
Just before the
Past
mall
the
that's set back.
Sunoco or the.
I might go.
Right, there's a mall that's set back that has more restaurants.
Are you trying to
It's a little
figure it
storefront.
It's right in front of the
on
boulevard.
There's a Sunoco and there's an India, and in between are a few, yeah.
I know where you are. I know where that is. Yes, I could get there.
Okay.
This is yours. You wanted the extra credit,
Yes.
right? So if you wish to join the festivities, I'm almost,
No. Coffee.
Coffee.
what time would this be?
10 a.m.
10
I
a.m.
know, that's not early.
No, that'd be.
What?
On a Sunday? I go to church.
Me too.
I'm sorry.
And I'll be sitting on that pew thinking, I pray for them young women in Providence. I hope they're really together.
And then,
They're putting this
Amen.
together.
you know,
So as your joys and
You
concerns,
know,
I'll
you
stand up
can
and
go to the
say,
church then.
Reverend Patterson, I have a concern. There's a thing called Three Sisters, and allegedly my students, they're planning for the event to which you were invited. And I don't know if you're coming, but I'm not even sure we're gonna have the event that I'm trying to get you to come to, so
You have no,
Do not.
what's the word?
I don't faith.
I know.
Ye of little faith.
Well, let me, before I say anything, let me turn to some evidence.
The evil eye. Do you feel it? Do you feel it?
Well, in the PA 551 course, of which the four of these folks are members, I've set up fora and threads for them to collaborate.
oh,
I don't think I've seen that.
collaborate with what?
Collaborate
Do you
with
see how we're
what?
all checking?
I don't think so.
Don't you have a presentation to make based on lobbyists?
Yes, we do.
Is there a
That's not
forum
next
for that, through threads?
Yeah, that's due in like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm with Ms. Janetka. We posted everything we're gonna use.
Oh, yeah, lobby, yeah.
Lobby, again, we didn't do lobbying yet. You did congressional.
We
Yeah.
did congressional.
Yeah.
Lobbyists is due. in
Okay,
3
so
weeks.
I'm not seeing many posts. In fact, I'm not seeing any. But
We have
we don't know what's coming next, do we?
What?
And then, of course, we hear a 501 have two major collaborations for which there is a forum and several threads. And by golly, I'm just not seeing a lot of action, as it were.
We're still struggling with our research papers.
Well, maybe we can clear some of that up tonight. So based on that, Walters, I remain open to change of opinion.
Okay.
So post Sunday next, which will be November 1, will it not?
Yes.
All Souls Day.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Formerly the Day of the Dead.
Oh.
Oh, it's following Halloween, it's always the Day of the Dead. So, all right, then I will expect to see or hear from all of you, or one of you, or some of you. Okay? Case analysis. Was there somebody who asked that we go over this in class? All right. I have a better idea before I go any further. All righty, here is the case, right?
Yeah.
So there's a narrative and an outline followed. It is recommended, it is urged. You've got a better one, I'm willing to entertain. Now, you've been divided into teams, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so each team is going to be preparing its own version of the analysis. On the discussion fora, in this case, there's only one, so discussion forum, I've been urging people to look at the other resource that's right next to this one, Principles of Case Analysis, to make sure we understand what we're doing. I think our own has a poster on that a little bit. It wouldn't hurt to have further discussion of the principles of the case analysis, correct?
Correct.
And you may very well find that each of the teams will be asked, what are the case principles that you were working on? And then I may ask individually the teams, what evidence did you find for the problems you looked at? I'll ask another team, list your problems, which are the ones the same as everyone else's. So that's pretty much the way I think it's going to go. So each team will have a chance to be, ask a question and respond. And preparation for saying would be in order. So you have the case, you have the principles, you have the outline. Ms. Walters, you have a more specific questions than the areas I've just covered. Feel free to ask.
Not sure what question to ask, but
Well, if you were thinking it, someone else in this room probably is too.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Pierce.
When is the date of this? We're representing this?
This will be on the evening of I believe we said November 30, but I need just
I think it's December.
December 1st, that's what you said.
Yeah,
You need to know your day before you give us a different day.
I'm just making sure that the date.
I had a really silly
He's
question
like,
because I
okay,
wasn't
what
sure
time?
if we're gonna just snoop on each other.
So December 1st.
Oh, to look at it.
I'm sorry, Ms. Diaz, I cannot multitask. Looks like December 1.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I'm sorry, Ms. Diaz, you were saying?
I wasn't sure if it was allowable for us to look at the other team's notes, like if it was snooping.
Well, it's not locked.
Okay.
So I'm assuming.
No, in fact,
I
if you
didn't
wish
wanna
to
be-
post over there, that's fine with me too. The idea is, what do I do with my-
So Russell Boschman is.
the idea
technically
is collaboration. We're not in international relations where we're afraid to show our hands. We don't have the CIA of PA 501.
Okay.
So the idea is to enrich the experience and to refine and enrich the answers.
I didn't want to be unethical.
Oh, I don't, that's fine, I'm glad you asked the question, we cleared that up there, right?
Yes, thank
So
you.
you may read others' posts,
Okay.
they're not closed. I set it up so you can do that. Walters, you had another point?
Russ Boschman cannot get on mine, he's wondering if you're on. I've asked him how we can assist him. Himself nor Marie can get on.
Well, you tell him, we got GoToMeeting, it's on, it's right there.
You did.
You see it, don't you? We're on, we're recording, we've been on since 6 p.m.
Is Ryan on?
Are there more people on?
No.
There it is.
But is Ryan on?
No?
No.
Okay, let me text her.
She might be get on.
There's a link.
I sent her a text. See what she says.
Right there. Your witness here.
Why does it say invite people? It doesn't usually say that, does it?
It has.
Okay, that's.
We have to.
It's the way we've always done it. I don't know whether it can go. Okay. Where were we? Oh, Ms. Walters, you were formulating a question.
She says, Ryan says she's waiting for it to start.
There it is. Start.
I think Chris had a question.
No.
Chris had a question.
Not yet.
Did you say you had a question?
Oh, you had a
about
question
analysis?
before we got this introduction?
Yeah, you did.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kabart. You must have had a question. Ms. Kabart, think you have one?
I don't remember.
We did
You're not even
before.
taking credit though.
That's
Okay.
the reason that I called him and put him on speaker. Do you mind?
I don't care.
I don't remember the question.
I was asking are there further questions. Ms. Walters had asked to go over this in class. I said I would. I just did. If that's not enough, you need more information. It's a further discussion.
Hi, Russ, it's Vicky. I'm gonna put you on speaker.
I have no idea what's going on, but, so Marie and I can't get into the go-to training.
There it is right there. I'm on.
This is Ryan's.
So Ryan can't get in either, but Dr. Hall isn't understanding what the problem is because it's up
It
and
says
running.
it's waiting for you to start the training.
He's-
The link, so first of all, the link inside the course says go-to training for October 28th, 2015.
October 28th is tomorrow.
Resource.
Today's the 27th.
So that might be the problem.
Okay.
Okey doke.
He said,
We're done.
I'm working, hold on. Okay. I just sent, Marie the link to the new thing. So, to the new session.
Thank you. You think of your question, Mr. Evans?
I did.
So nothing formal has to be written.
Who was the other student who couldn't get in besides myself and Marie?
Ryan?
Can somebody text or email Brian and let him know that the link has been resolved? All right, looks like somebody just joined.
I told her.
Hey, Marie, can you hear us okay? Okay, Marie can hear us. She just texted me. Good.
Ryan's writing back, hold on.
No.
All right, cool. So Marie is on. She can hear us. She just texted me, and somebody else just came on. Ryan's on.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, can you hear us? See if Ryan can hear me.
Oh, no, that's right.
That's what I mean, is that Ryan?
No.
That was, yeah.
Oh, somebody's on. That's Marie. Hi, Marie. We hear you.
Ross.
That's correct, Ryan. We can't hear you. Marie, can you turn off your microphone when you're not speaking, just so we don't get that feedback? That's good. Perfect. Ryan, try it again. Say something longer than just hi. Oh, that's Marie. Oh, Marie. Marie, can you mute your microphone, please, so we don't hear the feedback?
Yeah, just have to up the time, so go back to the top.
Okay, so Ryan is, she can hear us, but her microphone is not muted, and she's, Ryan, can you go into the sound properties like you did last time and see if you can either enable it or figure out what's going on? We got it to work last time. Okay, good. So while we're waiting for that, does anybody in class have any questions for me? I know we're starting late. I'm sorry.
I have a question, Mr. Ocean. Since,
Yes, fire away, Dr. Hall.
I stopped the recording when we tried to resolve the issue of getting people on, and then I restarted it. So will there be 2 videos be uploaded tomorrow?
Oh, I see your question. No, there shouldn't be 2 videos. It should be 1.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Ryan, use the built-in microphone and see if that works.
I have the opening slide, Mr. Bushman.
Sure, okay. Why don't we begin, and I can work with Ryan on the side while we answer any other questions that they may have.
Apparently, no one other than I seems to have a problem with bridges. The only problem I have is when I hit the marked red button, or sometimes when you go to the next unread message, the screen sort of jumps. But I've gotten used to that, so I'll work past it. And also the portfolio we talked about, and based on your appearance with me a week or so ago, our own Ms. Walters decided to make sure that hers was working.
Yep.
The link to ePortfolio, I opened it this very afternoon, I went into the course, I saw videos. So I urged everyone else to take that step too, just to make sure we didn't run into end of the semester problems. And then I asked if they had all turned in their video reflections for the midterm.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you did not have a grade, then either I didn't get it or I could have made a mistake and not recorded it, although I thought I was doing pretty well. So,
sure.
If Ms. Francois or Ms. Bramlett seems to be off now, Mr. Boschman.
I think she was starting.
So Ryan is restarting. She's good. That's what fixed the problem last week. So.
Okay, well, she can join us and she will look at the video tomorrow. Recommending people make sure they have a break through midterm reflections, that they don't rescind the e-portfolio at all working.
Okay.
And then we did a brief review of the October 14th reception, and you apparently received rave reviews for your tip certified service.
Oh, I thank you very much.
We then talked about the guest speaker that evening, and then we started talking about March 2 and May 4. And I was explaining that Ms. Walters and Ms. Zapata have taken the lead in putting together some extra credits work for May 4th. They're putting together a panel.
Wow.
Yes, of an indeterminate subject at present, but they will be meeting at the Three Sisters Restaurant in Providence near Tuckett City Line on Sunday next at 10 a.m. Sunday next will be November 1. So anyone who wishes to participate in that can do so.
I might need some extra credit, Dr. Hall.
Maybe. Ms. Zapata, Ms. Walters, would you share your email or your you can post it in the forum. You can send it, I'll send it out, whichever is more convenient, or you can call the friend from the priest.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now just wonderfully.
Okay, perfect. I think it's Chrome. If that was
Oh,
a problem.
gotta love Chrome. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Thank you.
Problems, Ms. Bramlett, I'm partly to blame.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I said I put the wrong date in the link for the code, so I screwed everybody up. I apologize.
Oh yes, I noticed.
Dr. Hall, can you put the microphone closer to your mouth because it's a little bit distant?
Can you hear me now? Is it better now, Mr. Bozeman?
Yeah, marginally. Thank you.
All right, I think I know what. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, now is it better?
A little.
Well, I'm doing everything I can do.
Okay, that's fine.
So Ms. Bramlett and Ms. Francois, if you wish to participate in the panel on May 4, please be in touch with Ms. Walters and Ms. Zapata. You can participate again with credit, plus my eternal thanks, and you will no doubt impress Elizabeth Roberts and the ASPA people. Now, I mentioned, I believe, at the October 14th meeting that Dr. Norvell is taking my place at the ASPA conference, mid-year conference in Information University. We are on the program with the title, Taking Your Program, Your Chapter to the Next Level. Apparently, they're looking to us for ways to do that. And once we do our May 4, that's the link that we will have from the video that we can send that to them and they will know that we're in. Mr. Bozeman, anything you can add?
No, I do not. Thank you, though.
We'll be on the Bristol campus, Mr. Bozeman, on May 4. If you wish to be able to join us.
I would love to.
And March 2 will be here in the evening. I'll be at the University of Washington State campus. These are always important technological skills to make sure that we're recording.
Okay.
I believe those are both Wednesdays of the weeks. So,
That should be fine.
good. We'll look forward to your participation. So,
Thank you.
Ms. Francois, do you have anything, questions about our programs, dates, May 4, March 2? Anything you wish to add? No?
You are checking Dr. Wall. I barely can hear you.
You can barely hear you.
everything's turned on. Ms. Bramlett, can you hear me all right?
I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
Is it vague? I mean, what is not coming through? What?
Well, it's just not as good as it normally is.
Well, I got everything turned on here, Mr. Motion.
Best bet would be to stand closer to the boom mics, the big giant straight things.
All right, I'm walking toward one right now.
Yeah, I can already hear the improvement.
Wow, then I'll just set up shop right here. All right. Now, Ms. Bramlett and Ms. Francois, we were just going over the case for analysis. And you see displayed on the screen, I hope, the outline at the end of the case for analysis, which is loaded into your resources in PA 501. Do you see it, Ms. Bramlett?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. All right. Ms. Walters was asking some questions. Ms. Diaz asked, would it be possible, is it okay to comment and or read the posts for the case for analysis from the other teams? And I said, sure, because the whole issue is about collaboration. So you are welcome to see what other people are doing. Then we talked about how the process would work on the evening of December 1. Is that a Monday? It is December 1, that's the last date. It should be, but I may have moved it. I don't remember.
December 1st is a Tuesday.
Okay, so December 1. December 1 is a Tuesday. We'll be meeting here at our regular time. Each team should, that evening we will divide into our teams. Those at a distance will be in communications with us by phone. We will collaborate like that. Each team will be asked the question to start out. I will be asking the questions. So I may ask for, what are some of the case principles that you found in the literature, for example? You might ask that of every team. So there'll be 5 teams, could be 5 different answers. Then I'm probably going to ask team 1, give me your list of problems you discovered. Then I'm going to say team 2, do the same thing. Team 3, team 4, team 5. So we'll see what problems keep reappearing. And then based on that, we will move further into the analysis, where I ask for, what is the evidence you have for these problems? How do you know they exist? Take me to the place in the narrative that shows me that. And then, what is the solution? Why is it the solution? What sources did you use for the solution? Would probably be another question I would ask. Now, Ms. Walters, is that advancing your question at all in a favorable way? All right. Ms. Walters also inquired whether or not there should be something formally written. And I have not yet formulated a response. I will do it this way. You are welcome to make notes. You are welcome to create formal documents of one kind or another for your team, for you individually. You can post them on the forum if you wish, or you can bring them out easily. So what I'm looking for here is not a right or wrong answer. It's a good answer. So if you were in the real world, you'd have a chance to compare them, and you would be able to take those kind of materials into the meeting with you. If you're not, you've been in those kind of meetings, right? You get to refer to your notes. Well, that's kind of what we're doing. Okay? So the accent here is on collaboration. The accent is on preparation. The accent will also be on responding extemporaneously. I may ask you a question you think you're not prepared. I'm looking for grace under pressure. Give an answer. Now, when we've done this in the past, there have been those who've come to me and said, well, Ms. X, and Mr. Y, haven't really been participating. I have said, not your problem, that's mine. And I usually take care of it. And to take care of that, I ask them questions. If persons who haven't been participating or ask those questions, which I will definitely make sure happens, then I will be able to tell the quality of the response, how he or she did not work. And he or she's flaws, will show up. Trust me, it works. I've been at this 4 years. I know it when I see it. And if you tell me I'll have to look that up, that's not the right answer. So you want, now that doesn't mean you can't have notes in front of you to which you could refer with a smooth transition. But you don't want to tell me you don't know the answer. Because if you tell me that, that suggests strongly to me you didn't prepare. So we will do that orally, Ms. Walters. Right? I may call on the whole team to come together. I may call on the individual members of the team. Right? And then we'll finish that exercise and then we'll go to the final exam. There's also a forum for the final exam, right? Not seeing much give and take there either. Yes, Ms. Diaz, you may go look at others. It's about collaboration. Now, there are several components to the question. The premise, and I believe I put this in the announcements or somewhere, did I not, about what the premise is, the DMARD's premise?
Yeah.
I say we're going to need different skills, so forth. This.
Put it in the final exam topics.
Yep.
I knew I put it somewhere. Thank you, Ms. Abbott. And those kinds of skills include analysis, and there's a list there, right? So that's the premise. So then the question goes on to ask, what have we done in 501 to get at those skills? And then, of course, there's the follow-on. Okay, if you were teaching 501, what assignments would you create to create those skills? And, of course, all this is preceded by who are the DINHARTs in the first place, right? Just some wackos like me? I mean, who are these? Are they people we should be listening to? Are they nut jobs? Are they mainstream? Are they on the cutting edge? Don't be surprised if some sort of question like that comes towards you. And again, the same protocols will apply. I will go to each team and I will ask for a response to a question that I will pose. And it'll be in the context of that final exam question. Ms. Walters, you may bring notes, word process notes, handwritten notes, books, citations, articles, printed pages, whatever you need and feel comfortable with, you bring. I am confident that we will be able to do the case analysis from 6 to 7:30, take approximately a 5-minute break, and then complete the remainder of the evening with the final exam. That's the way we've done it in the past. It's always worked. I anticipate that we will go over, but if we do, we'll have to go over. Okay? We will. I'm usually pretty mindful about that stuff. All right, Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, any questions or issues about the 2 collaboration assignments due on December 1?
No, Dr. Warren.
No, I don't have any questions.
And I'll expect to see both of you ladies participating in the discussion.
I have a question.
Certainly, Ms.
Yes, so for the case analysis, so we are using only that case that you publish on resources, only that case, or we are supposed to find a case from in the library resource.
If we were to do what you just suggested, we would be violating rule number 3. And rule number 3, you'll recall, is do the assignment you were given, not one you'd like to do. So don't go find another case. There's enough in that case. Now, I believe Ms. Diaz posted what I thought was pretty prescient I think it's key, I've actually said it myself, but it's important to look at. This is a case. It does come from reality. It's based on real stuff that happened to real people. I know, I'm mistaken. But it's not every conceivable piece of information that could possibly be stuffed into the case. Cases generally are not, they're not books. They are short like this. Okay, so you have the essentials. And there may be other things you wanted to ask. Okay, ask them within the confines of what you have to work with, because that's all you got. And it's never going to be enough. So go back to rule number 1, don't make it harder than it is. There can't be every human organization problem associated with this case. It just can't be. Now, there might be some underlying things. That's right. There may be, but there needs to be some evidence. You know, you can't just say, well, these people suck.
There may be evidence for that.
There may be. But number 1, they suck is so analytically imprecise. Does it? You know what I mean when I say analytically imprecise? Good, because I had a student write back, that's not helpful. Okay, you didn't do it clearly enough. How's that? You didn't do it sharply enough. You didn't draw on the appropriate vocabulary enough. All right? So don't look for things that aren't there. First look for things that are there. And then if there are underlying things, be careful about trying to imply what else might be wrong. Now, there may be some literature that could guide certain of those implications, but don't stretch it. All right? All right, Ms. Ramlin, Ms. Francois, do you follow that discussion at all?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Did you hear my discussion of the Panopto for midterm reflections? Ms. Bramlett?
I think I heard the back end of it.
Okay, Ms. Francois, Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Bima. If I received your e-portfolio with the Panopto properly lodged in it, I would have reviewed it and posted a grade. Check your grade book. If you do not have a grade in the grade book, it may be my error. Resend it to me.
So actually,
The quickest way is to check and see if your grade is in the grade book. If it's not, go immediately and send me the link to your e-portfolio. Be sure all of the videos are functional when you do it. And I will have it taken care of within 24 hours. All right, Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois? Ms. B?
Okay,
Yes, I understand. I'm all set for that.
Terrific. All
Another
right.
question though.
Yes, Ms. Capel.
Yeah. So for the case analysis, we are divided into groups.
Yes, you did.
Right. Yeah. So for each group, I think I actually may have seen questions for each group to answer out of the case given.
I may have asked a question or two based on some posts, but the questions you need to address are right there in that out. That's at the end of the case. You are free to ask each other questions on the forum. You are where I go look at it. You know I'm in there.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Well, there's some people, Ms. Capel, who think that somehow I'm laying around on a beach or something.
no. You sleep on bridges.
Sometimes it feels that way, Ms. Capel. So there may be a question that arises, and I will sometimes step in if I don't see anybody do anything. It may be important enough for me to answer so that I move you more quickly toward the end result. But I'm there. That's me.
Always there.
All right, so those two things are important. The final exam, case analysis, both on the last evening of class. Correct? December 1. All right. Now I want to circle around here a little bit. The final reflections go into the e-portfolio as a pen up to a video, script, and PowerPoints. All right. Let's talk about reflections for a moment, shall we?
Sure.
Okay. Tend to be a little bit lenient on midterm reflections for PA 501, because you're still getting used to it. PA 501 also has final reflections. Now, here's the two important factors. Reflections are about what you know as a result of having taken the course, or what you've learned. I'll do it that way too. And equally important, if not more important, how you know it. Now, our 551 folks, a week or two ago when we did our lobbying assignment, all of whom are here with me tonight, did I not in fact ask you the very questions to reflect on?
Let's talk about.
Yes, and you gave me some answers, right? Some of which had to be prompted, but we got them out there. So the two pieces are what you learned and how you know you learned it. Now, how you know you learned it, you may be thinking differently. That's good. How do you know that? You should be. If you're thinking the same way you were at the end as you did when you walked in here, I didn't do my job. No, I'll do my job, but in large measure, it's also your job. So if you learned about women in public administration, and you thought that was important, okay, let's reflect on that. I learned about women in public administration, and I never really thought about women in public administration. I never thought about those roles, particularly in the founding, having to do with historical kinds of things that women did. And yet, as a result of learning that, I came up with all sorts of important new female leaders who, in many ways, were not necessarily thought of as public administrators in their time. But I know now because I'm a member of ASPA. I joined ASPA because I believe in the profession. I believe in the profession because it does public service. And I know that because I've read the ASPA webpage. And these women, whether they were called public administrators at the time or not, were in fact public administrators. In the broadest of senses, in the most important of senses. And I also learned that most of them couldn't vote when they were doing what they're doing. How do I know that? Because I know that the 19th Amendment allowed them to vote and wasn't passed until 1918. And if you look at the history of, for example, Frances Perkins and her work in getting fire escapes, all of which we take for granted. Right? You expect there to be a fire escape in your house, don't you, in her apartment? Well, that comes from Frances Perkins. Because she stood there and watched women jump out of a building because it was on fire. There was no other way to get out. 21 or more of those women died and it was unnecessary. And because cheapskate owners wouldn't put fire escapes up the side of a building, she had to go, Frances Perkins had to go to the New York State Legislature and lobby men. You know how they can be. Well, let's think. It's 1910. So here comes Frances Perkins as the New York State Legislature. She's the only one there who's female. She's surrounded by cigar smoking, whiskey drinking, corrupt individuals, and yet she's savvy enough to know how to do this. And now I might know a little bit more about her than you do because I read her biography, and she's like one of my heroes. Largely because when she did her early important work, she couldn't vote, and she was persistent. And she was a working mom. And then she became Secretary of Labor. And Social Security, largely because of her. Labor laws and immigration laws that were important for the period, mostly because of her. I know all of that because I read her biography. I read I read all the posts on the forum about what she did. That's how I know I know. Get the idea? Ms. Devlin, I'm afraid to leave the microphone. Oh, wait, that's another one.
That's another one. So my question is how, I feel like I tried to cover too much in my midterm reflection. And I wondered how much we're supposed to cover in terms of the breadth of material, or is it better to have depth on specific things you think are key?
Here's my thinking on that, Ms. Evelyn. This is a wonderful question. If you were to take finance,
Can you hear us, George?
would it be in depth or would it be more focused than that? And you've taken finance, right?
George,
The whole
can you
grade
hear
comes
us?
down to that. Even when I was doing it, I thought it was wrong then. I still think it's wrong. If I limit 5 to 7 minutes, which is your length, and we then translate that into one page of script per minute, then I can't possibly do everything I just did right there.
You guys, let's
Because
take a
I'm
break.
exaggerating to
This,
give
and
you
I'm
the
gonna
point.
send George.
Then I want to be able to look at the highlights of from post midterm to the end of the course. So that means I'm going to go with my highlights, just like you would in a chapter presentation. You can't read the whole chapter. So what are the most important points? Now, Ms. Devlin, that's where your creativity, ingenuity, and cognition, which has been refined over the weeks. How do I know that? Because I've seen what you've done. And my key teacher taught me, here's a person who's making progress.
So George, I'm talking
Now,
right now.
it's harder to do a reflection than it is to do a final exam.
That you can hear me.
By the way, my observation is not just of Ms. Devlin, it's of many people in this room and online. I can see it. I can see it in what you were doing when you started that first forum and what you're now doing. I can see it in terms of the citations you pull up out of the library. I see it in the way you write. I know I'm going to see it. Now, there's no doubt that I look at this stuff, right? You know that I'm not just standing here judging. I know what I'm talking. So, I'm going to ask you, now what your highlights are and what Ms. Diaz's are could be different. I don't know. I would expect them to be different because you're not the same person. I am looking for quality of thought, quality of expression, quality of thinking. By the way, one of the things you do have to reflect on is thinking. Now, Ms. Evelyn, if I was going to go into depth in anything, that's where I do it. But that's me. Okay? So I'm looking for well-crafted, well-presented answers. And I know you're all capable of that. You're going to be better at the end than you were when you started. So your midterm reflection may be a lower grade than your final reflection, which is as it should be if you learn. Doesn't mean you would be penalized for your midterm reflection. And of course, if you join Ms. Zapata and Ms. Walters, and perhaps Ms. Bramlett by phone, at the Three Sisters, there could be, how should we put this, extra credit in the author. Now, I have every confidence that whatever you plan at Three Sisters and or later will be presented on May 4th. I do not wish to disappoint Elizabeth Roberts, William Seals Jr., the executive director, or Susan Gooden, the president of ASPA. And I know you don't want to do that either. So I have every belief that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And it will be of the quality it needs to do. And when they leave, they will continue to do what they've been doing, and that is tell everybody in the nation about the little Rhode Island chapter. You know, I didn't even know there was a Rhode Island chapter when I got here. Never occurred to me. I was so busy trying to get the program up and running. And then Mrs. Wolf-Lawson, who was the person before Mrs. Flora, came and said, I got this letter from ASPA today. It says, we don't do stuff. They're going to take our money away. I didn't know they had our money. It was like $1,200. $1,200, I can do a lot of stuff with $1,200 for the ASPA chapter, right? So we got our butts in gear and commenced doing programming. I got lucky. Of course, luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. There were some people who came along and said they wanted to help, and the next thing you know, it turned into 3 events. And those are the events that I've been reporting on to ASPA for the last 4 years. And the first ASPA president that came here was a guy I had just, by luck, coincidence, met when I was in interviewing for a job in Kansas City. And he remembered me. And I said, good, would you come to my event? Pulls out his phone, and next thing I know, he's here. So he was the first. And then that became a tradition. And so now every president of ASPA since him has been here. I'm willing to bet you, I'm willing to bet Coronatini.
Cough every time I laugh.
I'm
Sorry.
but that there is no other chapter in the nation that's done that. I'm willing to bet you. I think that's why we're on the program for what we're on the program for. So those are the kinds of things that are equally important to the development of you as a profession. And I look forward to what we're going to do on May 4th. I can't wait to show off what we've done. Okay, and I know you guys are coming through. All right? So there could be some extra credit in the fall, and shoot, be extra credit in the spring. Because what you're embarking on is a professional development experience that's worth the extra credit. So I have absolutely no problem doing it. Fair enough?
Fair.
Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, any questions about reflections?
No, Doctor.
Okay, then let us go to the PA 501 course project. Shall I pull up the outline?
Yep.
Excellent. Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, can you see the portion of the syllabus that I have displayed on the screen over on the far right-hand side? It says paper outline. That's the PA 501 course project paper. Can everyone see that online?
Yeah, I can see it.
Ms. Francois, can you see it?
Yes, Doctor.
Ms. Bailey, can you see it? Blanco, can you see it? All right. All right. So let's begin at the beginning. Premise. Let's revisit that idea for a moment. Whether or not you've ever thought about it that way, whether or not anybody you've ever worked for has thought about it that way, all programs are premise. Now, they may be a very implied premise, a very well stated premise, but at its simplest, a program is a set of work steps that are supposed to come together and something then is supposed to follow it as a result. Okay? That includes Social Security, VA hospital treatment, outreach messages, online databases to help people sort through data and questions. What's the one you're doing, Ms. Zapata? What's it called? Health
And user satisfaction.
No, what's the program? I'm sorry.
Health information exchange.
Health information exchange.
She was a grad student, right, so that's kind of in her mind.
That's kind of like a marketplace. People buying and selling in there. And you have to pay to join. It's free. Okay. So if I go in there, I'm going to find all kind of data that other people have collected that I have access to and can use, correct? Okay. So it's set up to help me. That's called service. Now, I don't know that if we go with Ms. Zapata down to the Health Information Exchange, talk to them and said, yo, you know what y'all are really doing? Well, we're working. And we say to them, you're doing a service. It's a database. Yeah, right. That's the form of the service. You know, like you go into a restaurant, they don't give you a database, they give you a steak or whatever you order, right? Okay, they're helping you. Except unlike in a restaurant, you can go to the health information exchange, you don't have to pay for the help, right? So if I go to a restaurant, which I did Friday night in Norman, Oklahoma. I don't know, something like Norman is like the vortex of bad restaurants. Maybe it's because it's a college town, you know, the turnover or something, I really don't know. But anyway, we went to a place called Saltgrass, which is it's a chain. It was pretty good stuff. The service was good. In fact, it was so good, I was annoyed. How y'all doing tonight? You doing okay? Shut up. Got everything you need? Just bring my stuff, leave me alone. Now, in Saltgrass, I paid for them to cook the meal for me. Wait, I paid for them to give me a selection of meal choices from which I could choose. I paid them to take the order that I wanted and not put stuff on there I didn't. Ever do that?
I would say,
You know, you
I
could?
would say probably if you took 2 courses.
Okay, they're helping you by not putting it, okay, we won't put that on, do you want something else? You get another side, yeah. Okay. I'll eat my grits in the morning, I don't want grits for the mistake. I'm paying them to bring it to me, so I have to go get it, right? I'm paying them to bring me accompanying beverages and or desserts, so I don't have to go get it. And then when I'm finished, I'm just going to get up and, after I pay them, I'm going to get up and leave. And I won't hear the voice of my mom in the back of my head saying, Michael Andy, pick up after yourself. Your mama like that? You're not going to just walk away, are you, from the table? No, ma'am. Now, in the case that I need to wash my hands, they have provided me an area where I can do that, which I do not have to clean up, right? If there's one thing I hate cleaning up, it's areas where you wash your hands. It hurts me. But I do it, including bleach. I'm very fastidious. I don't like germs or nasty people. All of that was done for me. They also provided me a place to park my automobile, marked off in concrete. Because not all of Oklahoma is grass. And they have lights out there that give me some degree of security. All of that is service, right? And if I get service, there is only one logical premise connection endpoint satisfaction. Now, there are forms of satisfaction to be true, but as we begin, that's a conceptualization. Now, Ms. Zapata's already talked to us about end user satisfaction. Well, that's different than customer satisfaction. The differences are important, but there are differences. Now, Ms. Zapata's task will be to carry on further through the outline. So, Ms. Zapata will then move to what's the definition of service, particularly based on databases from the literature. Now, she may begin with Credo, but I'm looking for literature. Okay? So the literature definition of database service kinds of organizations, work is, according to, right? You with me? Everybody with me? Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm not with you though.
Not with me?
No. Are you on A or 1?
A is the premise.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I went here, definition of, from the literature of the X in the premise.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm ready to go to the description of how the causal process works. Now, Ms. Zapata, we're using yours, right? Okay, so how does a health information exchange work?
Patients have to consent to be part of the exchange in order for collective data from hospitals.
Okay, so the first thing is Health Information Exchange collects the data for us, okay? And there's some procedures that we have to go through, but that's the first thing they do. So they have some sort of form, like we did in 557. 554, when we created a database, right? And Russell showed us how to create forms, right? So we have a form we send to the hospital, and the hospital fills that out, and then sends it back to us, and then we put it into the database, and we do that repeatedly, right? Okay. That means that if I want to use it, I don't have to do that step, right? And they put it in some sort of query form, right? So I can ask questions of it, right? So they've already set up the programming that allows for queries. We had to do in 554, didn't we? When we did health informatics. Okay? So that's all done for us, right? And then we can get a report based on our query. And then we can call them up and say, I have a question or two, and they will help us. Anything else they did that I've left out or we've left out? Okay, so they're helping the everyday patient as well as institutional data viewers, right? Okay, isn't that cool? Okay, that's nifty. That, by the way, is why the internet was created. Was it created for Jeff Bezos? By the way, you couldn't do Amazon unless there was open source code on the internet, right, Ms. Devlin? There was a guy who did all that for somebody else. Used the Linux. It underlies virtually, not the iPhone, but the Android. Couldn't have existed without that code. They have all that stuff there, right? He did it for free to help. Because they thought it was better for all of us, pardon the expression, collaborate, right? So what we have then is a open source of data for users. I'm sure we have to have encryptions and some codes. So they're going to protect our data for us. Okay, all that's, it can't be anything more than it is. We'll talk about that. It's not, that's what it is. It's not more than that, but it's also not less than that. It's a form of service, providing data for people. There's a whole literature on that. It's called Management Information Systems. And I'm sure it's got a refinement, as we know, Ms. Zapata, from Health Informatics. I'll get to your question in a second, Ms. Okay, all right, so that is 2A. Oh, Ms. Zapata and I were just doing. Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, do you follow me?
Yes, Dr. Wall.
Okay.
Yes, I'm following.
Okay, so ladies, if I ask you what yours are, what these sections are, or what you've done, you can tell me? If we did the same thing for you, ladies, on the internet, that I just did with Ms. Zapata, we could do that?
Alliances and networks?
Yes. Okay, I'll be surprised if I don't come to you then and ask. Okay, so
Control of the agenda, so.
program context. Ms. Zapata, where is this thing? The health resource, what is it, health information?
Right now in Providence.
Okay, so the physical location is in Providence. Is there an address? Are all the data on the cloud, which by the way couldn't exist unless the internet had underlying open source code free. Is it on the cloud?
It's on a server and then there's a backup server in North Carolina.
That's where the cloud is, I think. Yes. Okay.
And training is another source of power.
Are there professionals involved, including yourself? Are there specialists in tech, computer software and hardware? Okay, they can be included in the context. Does everyone follow that? All right, Ms. Capehart, you had a question.
Yeah, what's the difference with the cautious process and the program processes? Yeah. What's the difference between those two? Yeah, that one that you are pointing to over there, the cautious process and the program processes, are they like the same or what?
That's a good question, Ms. Capehart, and the answer is they're the same.
Then why did you?
Because the same reason I typed in October 28th on the link for the GoToMeeting. I don't know. It's gotta be for practice.
Okay, so.
Okay,
should
if you
we
get,
know one of that?
if you get the kind of detail that Ms. Zapata and I were just going through together, and you have labeled them in some way with those titles so that I know what you're talking about, I will be happy. You don't have to duplicate.
Okay, yeah, because I did
I know,
that.
I see it now, and I must beg your forgiveness.
Okay, well.
Pardon me.
You are forgiven.
Thank you so much. Okay, why is this topic important? Mrs. Zapata, why is it important for us to look at health resources, health exchange, health information exchange?
It's a way to provide better care to patients.
And how does it do that?
It provides the patient with the most recent up-to-date information of their health that they can then provide to their provider. So that
And they can become a more informed participant in their own healthcare. Is there anything in literature to support that?
Sure.
Well, let's go look. Okay, where am I now? Oh, cause and effect linkage. All right. So anything in the literature linking database / MIS service to end user satisfaction.
Especially when there's going to be bad times ahead. You know, like.
Because no matter how you describe it, Ms. Zapata, that's exactly what this is, correct? Now, that does not foreclose the opportunity for Ms. Zapata to look in the literature for specifics of healthcare. But should Ms. Zapata not find what she's looking for there for any number of reasons, she has a great fallback position. There's a whole literature on MIS and what it does. And it's a support function. It's supposed to help people. So, is there something in the literature that supports this process working like we've said at the premise? And that assignment section, Ms. Capehart, is to get you deeper into the literature of program theory. Why does this thing have a shot at working? Or was it just blind, stumbling luck that we put this together? Now, in the case of the health information exchange, I suspect it was not blind, stumbling luck, but there was a whole, it's been what, 50 years of development, of technology, and user interfaces, all which, by the way, began after World War II with government funding for the Republicans who think we spend too much. I digress. All right, Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, do you see what goes in this section? Section 3, Roman numeral 3, cause and effect linkage found in the literature.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, do you understand what it means?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. All right, and I'll be asking for an update shortly. All right, so then we come to the important part of the assignment. Here, Ms. Capehart, my teaching intent is to get you further into your literature, particularly the literature of measurement. And the literature of measurement in your field, or your subfield in public administration, can inform your custom. It certainly should inform your thinking, the way you've gone about doing, or will do in the future, further exploration of literature. What I'm also trying to achieve here, Ms. Capehart, and everyone else, is for you to think of the literature as the first place to go when you encounter issues of the kind that you're going to find in the public sector, health sector, when you are in charge. You do not pick up the phone and call a consultant. The consultant's probably doing less than you do, and the consultant's going to sell you something in package. Trust me, dealt with that problem. Here's our low income. This will give you information such as, that's not what we need. We have a deluxe approach. It will give you not only that, plus some additional detail. But that's not what we need. Well, we can make you a specialized solution for only twice the fee that we would charge you for the base. And where would they have gotten that solution? That's why I'm sending you the literature. Now, we've had, I thought, a productive discussion of program theory. Okay? Program theory is less well developed in the social sciences and general public administration in particular than in physics. Nobody takes Time magazine with me, right? Or the cover stories this week? Of course you would, because you don't take fusion. Now, I've been reading Time magazine cover to cover
Now, I put up, just so you know.
since I was a freshman in
I went ahead
college.
and put up all of the,
You know how many times fusion has appeared on the front cover, been the cover story, or a story, at least a half dozen times. And the first time it was there,
but I wanted to just,
the solution, the final solution to fusion energy is 30 years away. The second time it was in there, the fusion energy future is 30 years away. Now they think they're right on top of it, and it's only 10 years away. Maybe a little. All right, fusion
the last one I think I have on the,
is the sun. That's how it works. The sun is fusion. It heats hydrogen to extreme levels so that the molecules collide and a bond, releasing neutrons, and creates actually more energy doing the fusion of those molecules than does fission. Fission is the atomic bomb, where you break the energy apart, and it releases a lot. It's very powerful, except it's also dirty. It's dangerous, and there's certain people we do want to have that in their arsenal. Anywhere. So fusion is the wave of the future, and they built equipment to heat the plasma that you have to have, not liquid. It's a form of energy that's not liquid, gas, or solid. It's sort of plasma. But you have to heat it to temperatures approaching that of the sun. And they're working on it. They actually have equipment to do it. They got pictures of it. It's amazing. But there's a physics that underlies this, right? Okay. Program theory in service has somewhat of a longer history, by the way, than some other program theories. But we don't have the kind of exclusivity of cause and effect that the people in physics or chemistry do. That's not to say at one time in the future we might not. But the only way we get there is by measuring stuff and measuring it consistently the same. Right? So program theory tells us why something works. Just like fusion is based on physics in a specific area of physics, it tells us why fusion can work and what you need to do to get there. And by the way, finding materials that are strong enough to hold all that heat. I mean, we're talking about trillions of degrees Celsius. But they've already done some of this. Now the problem, of course, is sustaining. You got to heat it and keep it going. At 5 billionths of a second, that's a pretty long time. And they've accomplished that. But there's a reason they know they have. And the equipment that you see pictured in that article is based on program theory, based on physics, all right? So program theory has a relatively new beginning compared to physics, chemistry. And we don't yet have a Galileo or an Einstein, although their equivalent could be sitting in the classroom. Einstein wasn't a very good student, was he? Not that you aren't. But he was also not being, his passion wasn't being tapped. I hope I'm tapping into your passion. So this section is important about program theory, right? Why it's possible for your cause and effect to be found together and see if it works. There's literature that precedes us. Don't reinvent the wheel. Then we are in the same literature that you draw from for this final section on the scales of Y. Okay? So in Mrs. Zapata's case, we're talking about satisfaction. Now, Ms. Zapata, as you see in our outline, what I've tried to do is give you a sense of organization that is required next. So, satisfaction is a broad term. So we could have general satisfaction scales, which would be appropriate for this assignment. We could have then our second category, or B, we could have end user satisfaction. We could then go into citizen satisfaction. Now the issue is going to arise, because I think somebody's already asking, how many scales do I need? I've never assigned a number like that, and I'm not inclined to do so now. Just like, how long should this paper be? Come on, we're not in high school. You know, my brother's students asked me, do we have to write all this? It's 5 lines. Well, that's a lot. Well, first of all, I'm not going to constrain you, because son of a gun, I want your creativity to be loose. Go, 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 find it. So there'd be at least 2, possibly 3, maybe more sections of satisfaction, right, Ms. Zapata? Now, your only liability here, the only thing you're being held responsible for, once you find those scales, is to organize them, as I just indicated, Ms. Zapata. And then 1, describe their content. So, what do they look like? How long are they? Are they a perceptual scale? Probably are. How many items? All of the statements that may be in the article, give me a sample. Or if you've got them all, give it all to me. Don't overlook tables, because frequently the results of these scales are shown in tables. Does it have an alpha coefficient? What is it? Does it say if it's a summated rating? That's S-U-M-M-A-T-E-D, summated rating. Now, the root word of summated rating, Ms. Devlin, is what do you suppose? Or summation. What's a sum? Correct. So what would I be adding up in a summated rating?
Various factors that are involved in the rating.
And those factors are the items, and the response to each of the items would be a number, which I would then add to each of the response numbers and all the others. That's a summated rating. Otherwise, all I have is a 20-item scale with agree, disagree on it. All I can tell you is how many people responded agree, disagree, or what have you. And I can jive that up and put some numbers on there and say, well, the average response was... First of all, you can only add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's arithmetic if you actually have scale kinds of figures. An interval scaled minimum, ratio scale is even better. And if you and I sat down and said, okay, let's find out how the people on the street think about the health information exchange, let's ask the following question. Do you like the health information exchange? And that seems like a logical question to ask of an end user, doesn't it? What's the next question? How did you find the ease of use of the health information exchange? 1 to 5? Right. Now, we have items, we have response categories. We've assigned them numbers. Do we have a scale?
Yes.
No. We do? Well, it's an open question. I don't know. It's unlikely we have a scale with only 2 items. It's unlikely that we're going to have a scale with only 2 items with something as complex as end user satisfaction. And it certainly doesn't provide us any information on, is there an alpha coefficient that says this thing is internally consistent? When I have a respondent look at those questions, do they see me asking what they perceive to be the same thing, the same topic, rather? That's what the internal consistency is about. Now, you don't need to worry about jiving questions, worry about biasing questions once you have a scale. Now, if you want to sit around and kind of come up with ways to ask new questions that somebody else already has asked, and then try to go through the process of testing it over a large enough number of people to find an alpha, you got the next 6 months? No. And why did I use 6 months? Because I've done it. And unless you're really weird and went to or will go to Mr. Broachman's Nerd Night event, likely you would have a passion for doing such a thing. Now, I actually adapted a scale, and it still took me 6 months. But you have to test it, and you have to send it out, and you have to get a large enough number of responses to get back to do an alpha coefficient test that is worthy of the name. Okay? Now, why do all that if somebody else has been there ahead of us? Now, I stopped at the Millbury Extra Mart just across the state line in Massachusetts, where they were selling gas for amazing $2.05. I bought it in Midlothian yesterday. Buck 74. No kidding. I felt like I got ripped off Sunday. I felt like my brother got ripped off Sunday morning when we paid $1.89 at Norman at the 7-Eleven. But you know, we're about 10 minutes from the house, and I'm looking at the gas gauge, and it's almost empty. Now, when I left on Friday, it was almost full. When I got to Norman, it was short of half. So if somebody filled it up, shouldn't it just gone to half again? I'm thinking I got ripped by a certain sibling for only $1.80. I digress. So if we find scales that someone else has already developed that have been proven through tests of the kind I'm talking about, then that's the assignment I'm after. All I'm looking for is, can you find me a scale that measures a concept you claim it measures? And you will be able to do that by using the right search terms, which we now have talked about in general. But when I read it, I know what I'm looking for, don't I? And if I have a context, which I will have from Roman numeral 1 all the way from Roman numeral 3, when I get to the scales and start looking at them, if I'm in Zapata's case, I'm not finding satisfaction scales of some kind. I'm finding, I don't know, improved quality of life scales. Because that's where we want this to go, right? Eventually in Zapata, we want, particularly mine, I want my quality of life to be long-term, happy, prosperous, or at least comfortable, filled with sooner victories. But I'm not going to get that from a healthy exchange. Come on. I can use it all day long, still be a sickly punk, couldn't I? Okay. So you can't be held responsible for something you can't do. It's a service. It can help people. It's information. It can help them know stuff. It'll help, right? Okay. So if I suddenly start seeing quality of life scales or readmission counts in Ms. Zapata's paper here in this last section, I'm going to write back and say, Ms. Zapata, this is completely off target. F. You know what I have to do? I don't want to give you this. It hurts me to give you this. I can do it. Remember that bathroom last time I cleaned? I don't like doing that either, but I do it. All right, so it's a clear, once you give me the path through Roman numerals 1 through 3, I know where you're supposed to end up. And if I'm not there, something's going wrong. Okay? Now, the key to this last section, Roman numeral 4, is organization. And in a case like satisfaction, there are all kinds of ways to organize it, and the ones that I've suggested are certainly useful, I think, but you are free to find your own organization. There may be refinements I hadn't seen in a while. So that's the task before you. Are there questions about the assignment in general, Ms. Capehart?
Yes. So how many skills do you want?
No. I don't assign a number.
Because looking at the outline, you have skill number 1.
All right, Ms. Capehart, here, let's do something. Let's go, I'm going to close this because I don't want too many things open. Because everything will crash. Let's go to resources. Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, our own Ms. Capehart is asking how many scales. So, I'm in resources. I'm going to go down to I was looking for study rating rules. Sample paper. Get out. Here we go. Let's see with. We look at this. We look at the sample paper. And let's see. How many pages is this? 20. She's still going, right? Guess it's still reading. And this is it. Right? So we ended up with 28 pages. She's still going. Okay, part exam.
As many skills as possible?
Look.
As for me, my program focuses on it's the customers for household satisfaction for the heating assistance program.
That's correct.
So
so yours is not dissimilar from Ms. Zafana. So since you have slightly, let me rephrase. Since you have a different unit of analysis, which would be people receiving heating assistance, okay? We're not going to use end user satisfaction because they're not working with the database, correct?
No.
All right, but you're working with citizen satisfaction scales. You're working with general satisfaction scales, and in some ways they are customers. We could treat them as customers, so you get at least another category of scales you could use. All right, that's 3 categories. Now, Ms. Elsalay's paper goes on to what? 40 pages, I think it is. I never signed 40 pages. Doesn't mean I wouldn't read 40 pages if what I'm reading is appropriate and good. Nothing, I don't like a whole lot of things better. Some, but not a whole lot. Things better than a well-turned phrase. So if you're writing well, I'm reading. I'm going through it. Any question in your mind, I'm going to do that. So you got at least 3 categories, and I'm willing to bet, Ms. Capehart, if you were to do that, both you and Ms. Connick could easily come up with 30 skills total. and still keep the able going. I'm willing to bet. If you go right now to the library, and you were to type in satisfaction, and then add qualifiers like end user and customer or citizens, and then add another qualifier like measurement, you're going to still come up with over 2,000 occurrences of those three terms together. I'm willing to bet. Somewhere in there has to be the scales you're looking for. Right? Now, if you look at the sample, you'll also see that she followed the outline very explicitly. Here's the content section, edit subheading, right? And then here's the application section. Questions about application. Application is how you use this scale. You hand it out in a congregate setting. Do you send it by email? Is it pencil and paper? Do you wait for the respondent to fill out and then collect it? And you send it by social media. You get it back by social media. Was there a follow-up if there was a non-direct collection of the instrument at the time the respondent was there? And in general, most of the time the answer is yes, you can do a follow-up. So if you see that in the literature, and I tell you, you know that when you come to Capstone, you can do a follow-up to get more data. Right? One is the same instrument. Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Francois, questions?
Not at the moment. That was very helpful to go over.
All right.
So.
Let's go to Ms. Francois. Ms. Francois, questions?
Yes, Dr. Wall. Can you please read the categories again?
I'm sorry, that was a bit garbled. What was your question? Speak slowly, please. What did we do something again? Can you articulate that? Anybody here about what is it you want to get in, Ms. Francois?
Can you please repeat the three categories again?
Yes. Have her type it or something.
You're not coming through very clearly, Ms. Francois. Can you type in the chat board what it is you need?
Okay.
Wait, now you
I know, that's.
try it. Speak again, please.
I think I understood her to say that you should repeat the application again. What you just said about the application.
The description of the application.
Repeat.
Okay. The application section, if that's what your question is, Ms. Francois, as interpreted by our own statement, is how you use the instrument. To use it immediately following the conclusion of the X. For example, in your case, where you're working with students in classroom, you send it by email. You send it by U.S. Postal Code. And you send it by email. You send it by social media. If they use Survey Monkey. Just had a report to our ES review, and I had to contact various offices here and in Providence or in Bristol about plans or evaluation to get done. And I got back a response from one office that said, we abandoned social or Survey Monkey for Qualtrics. I was pleased to be there. Qualtrics. Qualtrics is a free application that you have access to. Mr. Boschman can help you create it. It's a much smoother process. Besides, if you got a survey that says this is Survey Monkey, or you got one that says Qualtrics, which one would you think was more reliable? Me too. Anything with monkey in the title, I don't think I'm going to work with.
Be nice.
Monkeys are nice to look at. I don't want them doing my survey. You can adapt Qualtrics to your instruments, to your scales. And you can send it then by electronic means. You can send it by email, social media, etc. Was that your question, Ms. Francois? Application? Yes? No? All right, Ms. Diaz, shall we look at yours and see what kind of progress you're making? Roman numeral number 1, your premise.
Oh, boy. Okay, so my premise is if parent, and I apologize because I have everything in a Word document down in my laptop, which I haven't pulled up, but if parents participate in an e-learning program regarding the state's teen driving laws, then parents will participate in enforcing household rules to support those laws.
Okay. This is online, you say?
Yes, it is.
And I'm a parent, let's say?
Yes.
And you've given me a link. And I get something going to go to me. And interactive. And there are lessons and advice and someone who teaches this, like you do here.
Well, I am.
Yes, there will be classes for that.
Okay, now.
Pre and post survey.
I got the help. Program process, right? Anything else or leave? It's going to be video and what?
Yes.
All right, now Ms. Now, if I'm in a learning context, whether it's online, over the internet, hybrid, in a classroom, talking, presenting, showing, listening, are there any practice sessions where I can role play, children versus parents? They do have to do homework, or they have to come up with sample rules for their children? Anything that remotely resembles what we generally call practice? Anything like that?
I do have a component where you can download items, contracts, and sit with your child and form a contract for household rules and things like that. Yes.
Okay, let's.
I only know one state
I'm going to
that
stretch
studied
that
that in
like
real
a
life.
rubber
but-
band to
Okay, no,
practice.
that's good.
All right, so they get to play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And there's human body involved on the teaching end. That's things like, oh, that's a very good idea, Ms. Diaz. What do you think? Oh, thank you for sharing. People who do that kind of stuff. No, don't make it up. I'm giving you ideas. If they're not there, don't put it in there. I want to know how it works out. Okay, so here's what we got. We got an online learning setting, right? It's a course, it's a teaching thing. You can't make that do more than it can do.
Right.
So you can't climb a ladder with missing rungs, can you, Ms. Zapata? Okay, so that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to go from this online learning environment to life where this is, and you're trying to get back into the household, into the kids,
Yeah.
to make the kids do something. Okay, I'm leaving out something. Like, if I'm going to do online stuff and teach people things, then logically and directly, they should know more about what it is I'm talking about than when I finish than when I start.
Yes.
Okay. No.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I want them to leave with the ability to do it or believe they can. All right? Now, in your case, I'm thinking the belief that one can is probably the better approach rather than some formal skill.
Right.
Okay, it's not, and there's psychomotor things involved, like I gotta think about, oh, it's a contract, let me use my hands and thinking, or not the same thing, because the action is eventually gonna go to the kids. So what I want from these folks is what is called self-efficacy, that is the belief that I can do it. All right? Now, usually there's an intention result in any teaching. You didn't give me anything to go with it, so I can't make it occur unless there's something to go with it. But you've told me that there's this online interactive course where people can ask questions and see videos and they can look at recordings. And then there are these items that I could use to work with or to practice and get familiar with and sort of be inclined to use them, right? So the next thing I want out of that is, I believe if I download that, I think I can actually use it. Okay, that's called self-efficacy. Now you will note that I've left the kid out, haven't I?
Yes.
And that's by design, Ms. Diaz, because the kid ain't in here, is it? Okay, the unit of analysis is where you're going to find cause and effect. Remember heat and boiling?
Yes.
They're together in the same place, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay? And dinner is later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the heat is this online stuff, the recording, the interaction, the downloading and familiarity with contracts and stuff, et cetera. Although I think I'm still stretching it to get self-efficacy, but I think it's okay. Then my two Y's are knowledge and self-efficacy.
To act was what I was kind of staking this on, but maybe I can't not do that. Okay.
Yeah, you can. How much time do you have?
I don't have 6 months.
No, you don't. In fact, you would need longer.
I found a
And
study.
secondly, Ms. Diaz, the assignment is due on or about December 12th. So
Yes.
I want your liability limited. Now, let's get back to the kid. Here, one of the problems you're facing getting to the kid, and I would like you to go there too, is there's no causal element to get to the intention in the unit analysis, i.e. the parent, strongly enough to get them to want to go do it and it's over. Now, it's hard to get intention, let me assure you. I've been at this 40 years. I've got people who walk out of these courses going, that was the most awful experience I've ever had. That doesn't strike me as a person who is intending to use anything I've taught, right? You can also look around this nation and see people with MPAs and they don't do what they were taught to do because it doesn't say cuddle up to politicians. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say you can't talk to them. It just says you can't cuddling up to them and doing their bidding as if you were a minion. No. So you don't try to make something to create a result it cannot possibly do. Now we know that if you tell people and show people, the logical thing you could do is create more knowledge about whatever you presented than you did before. All right, so I need a knowledge scale.
Okay.
In fact, I need a number of knowledge scales. Now, Ms. Diaz, I don't know the literature on parent, whatever this is, as well as you might. But the issue isn't necessarily the subject matter test actually existing whole or part, but finding tests that could possibly be adapted. And for that, we need the same kinds of things. What does it look like? How many items? What are the questions? How is it scored? True, false? Is it true, false? Is it multiple choice? Is it fill in the blank? Is it graded right or wrong? Does it have an alpha or is it a standardized test? And then application. Can you use it to the mail? Can you use it in a distance setting? Do you have to use it in classrooms? Now, if it has to be used in classrooms, doesn't mean you eliminate it from the list.
Right.
It means that you need to think about it should you follow through with CAPSTone. I worry about that later.
Okay.
All right? Now I need self-efficacy scale. I need self-efficacy scales. Self-efficacy scales have been around since, the mid-30s, 1930s. The person who advanced most of that work is a guy named Bandura. And since his time, there are all kinds of self-efficacy scales. All right?
So I'm going to throw out planned behavior and parenting intention. Gone. Okay.
Because there's nothing in there creative.
Okay.
Because I asked. Remember, I asked you to give me the program process. And the same thing I said earlier when we were talking about Ms. Zapata's work. You know, if you give me a set of program processes, which you're required to do in that outline, by the time I get to the scales of X, or pardon me, the scales of Y, I'm looking for the logical result of those processes. And impact is not going to be it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want impact. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean it's not possible to get. It does mean that what that impact is, has to be created from a fairly powerful force or combination thereof, which can be done in education and training, but it's going to be longer than online 30 minutes or whatever, and it won't appear until later. So when you said 6 months and I said it could be longer, it may be longer before the impact shows up in a kid. Because the deploying of everything you want done in your specific case is up to the person, the parent, who may not feel immediately comfortable and would want to wait, and would want to wait for an incident. Or there might be parents who want to be preemptive. Either way, you gotta wait for it to show up in the kid,
Okay, I understand.
like dinner.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
it ready
I've
yet?
seen it
Nope,
measured
not ready yet.
in one state so far.
Don't push, don't push. You can't make it work and do things it can't. Follow me?
I do.
Good.
I do. Okay.
Now, is there anything in literature for teaching people and getting them done things and have set focus? Remember the literature, was it Roman numeral 4, 3, 2? Anything in literature support that? Well, we've got years of teaching stuff going on, right?
E-learning.
Education literature, adult learning literature, so it's possible. Give me some. Ms. Bailey, what's your premise?
If Veterans Hospital First Service campaign use telecommunication for eligibility, like that's telephone or email, it would result in satisfaction among veterans. That's what I thought. So am I like on the wrong
No, I think you're in the right
page?
place. I just want to make sure what service I'm trying to connect to satisfaction. Is it referrals? Is it the referrals?
Referrals, yes.
Well, you're in luck. There's a person doing a capstone around referrals for the immigrant community.
That guy.
And there is a literature on it, but look for it in places that you may not expect. I found, and I can't reproduce it, but we found one. He was looking for scales, measuring this stuff, and I found one that has to do with chaplains, Army chaplains. See, that's called serendipity. And it had a subscale on referral. Now, your scale, go there, find it if you can, but that's ads. Now, are there satisfaction scales? Well, we've been through that already, right, Ms. Vima?
Yes, you said there could be the general.
Well, in your case, Ms. Vima, since you're dealing in health, right?
Yes.
We got patient satisfaction scales. And then, of course, general satisfaction scales.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got two categories. Ms. Blanco, what do you got?
I think I want to change mine.
Okay.
Initially, I was,
Be advised, it's,
well, it's
End of
because I
October.
can't find anything, and I just played around again just to see if I
well,
was.
sometimes when I hear that, I think, here's student violating rule number 1. And if you thought about it, it's in there. The issue is how you express it. So
Right.
tell me how you would express it, and we'll see if we can figure it out.
I don't know the proper way to say the sentence, but
Say it the way you need to say it.
satisfaction scales for users of home ownership, financial literacy. I don't know if it's courses or programs,
I don't either.
and their
Pick one.
satisfaction and the end user satisfaction. So
Okay, so let me see if I've got this so far. Literacy is not in large enough supply. Okay, you want to make that occur. Is that right? Financial literacy.
and as I'm hearing, I'm trying to figure out, are we creating a new program
No.
or I'm measuring an existing program?
Yes.
So at first I wanted to measure Rhode Island housing satisfaction with the
Yes.
users.
Yep.
But I couldn't find anything about financial assistance for housing. So then that's why I changed it to financial literacy. But I'm fooling around with this here just to,
Well, I think we're violating rule number 1. Because there's a literature on both.
yeah, either I'm looking for it the wrong way.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
All right? So what we need to do. Let's go back to Are you going to pull it out? Let's go back to financial housing, Rhode Island housing, financial services. Health card, right? One of the questions I always ask, how would that look? Yeah, financial services. I could take them through the typical mortgage process.
How do I get? How do we help you?
Hear you.
How do we help you to get your credit to where it needs to be so that you can do it, I guess? And then that's why I focused on the because, all right. I thought in my mind that was all financial literacy. Like, no.
No, that's like I got two different names. He's never fighting over the what? Mr. Francois, would you are coming to be there? Rod, can you hear me?
No, Doctor, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No?
You can hear me now?
No, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I want you to be ready to be the next person who goes through the outline with me. That is the PA 501 course project outline. Okay, so you be ready. Okay?
Okay.
One back.
Doctor, I have a quick question because I raised my hand, you didn't see me. I have the same problem also. I can't measure my program because it's a new program.
Well, I believe, Ms. Francois, that the literature precedes your program. In fact, I know it does, because there are two students who've done similar projects. Ms. Barron, whose PA 590 project, by the way, is in the resources section, and Ms. Chesky, Erin Chesky, who did a version of your program having to do with sexual state violence. So they're very similar, and I'm sure you will find the literature is rich in your area. Now, Ms. Francois, let us be clear. For PA 501, you're not gathering any data. You're finding scales that could be used to gather data. You're not gathering any data, so your program doesn't have to exist. Were you at the capstone process, you couldn't collect data on things that don't exist, right? But that's later on. Yeah. Hold your question. I'm coming back to you. Ms. Polanco, where were we? Literacy or health?
Literacy, but
Let's
so
do literacy.
as I wanted to play one out if we could. I did financial literacy, low income families.
Let's don't do that.
Don't
do that.
So I'm trying to figure out what are the,
Okay.
I don't know if it's attributes or qualifiers.
Well, let's go back to the outline. Here's your liability. The premise. If financial literacy training consisting of presentations, speakers, demonstrations, videos.
I'm not aware that those exist though.
They do.
Okay.
Couldn't make them up. Practice at filling out financial documents, practice at household budgeting. I'm going to limit the subject matter here. Then, financial literacy. Okay? Now, your task is to find scales, given that draft of financial literacy. I'm willing to bet if you type in financial literacy and evaluation, you'll come up with all kinds of okay? You think about that for a minute, I'll come back. Ms. Francois, are you there?
Yes, Dr. Wall.
I'm so pleased. All right, Ms. Francois, you're doing a domestic violence prevention program, correct?
Yes, Dr. Hall.
You're doing it in a classroom setting?
Yes, but I'm using the church for the classroom setting.
Okay, so you're going to do in the building called a church, and it's a room. You're going to be in there and you're going to tell the attendees things that they presumably don't know enough about right now, correct?
Yes, Dr. Hall.
You're going to show them what domestic violence means. You're going to show them how to prevent it. You're going to tell them here are the steps you need to take. Here are the principles you're following. Is that correct?
Yes, Dr. Hall.
Do you have them do any role plays, Ms. as well?
Excuse me?
Say, will you have them do role plays where they take the role of a victim and an abuser?
Yes.
Okay. And you're going to encourage them to do what they do in the classroom well. You're going to pat them on the back when they do a good job. You're going to do you way to go, everybody kind of thing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here's your premise. If domestic violence prevention consisting of classroom presentations, comma, role plays, comma. You got it, Ms. Francois?
Yes, I'm here.
Comma, after role plays and coaching, then knowledge of domestic violence prevention as taught, comma. Let's use self-efficacy. That's usually a better way to get at the kinds of things you're working on rather than skill. Self-efficacy about ability to prevent sexual violence or domestic violence and intention to use the domestic violence prevention program as taught.
Okay.
You get that?
I can write it down.
Okay, so I need scales of subject area knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I need scales of self-efficacy, and I need scales of intention. So you will have A, knowledge scales, B, self-efficacy scales, and C, intention scales.
Okay.
There are a whole bunch of attitude scales on domestic violence, battering, and so forth. That's what Ms. Barron was doing. Because Chesty did something like that too. But you're not interested in attitude scales. You're interested in knowledge scales. Knowledge scales of the subject of domestic violence prevention, if there is any in the literature. But then you can broaden your search to go for knowledge tests that could be come from another field. That's perfectly all right.
Okay.
All right, and you're looking for B, self-efficacy scales. There are general self-efficacy scales where I would start. Let's see what they use, but I think you come up quite a number. And then C, your C section will be intention scales. Intention to act, intention to use, intention to exercise. I don't care what they are.
Okay.
As long as you get intention scales, behavioral intention scales. Okay?
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right, now, Ms. Francois, tomorrow afternoon, I want you to go into the resources of this course, and I want you to review this section where you and I spoke and be recorded so that you may go back over it to know precisely what it is you need to organize, how you need to organize your last section on sales.
Okay.
Right?
Correct, Dr. Wall.
Good. Ms. Bramlett, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, Ms. Bramlett, can you give me a draft of your premise?
Yes, it's if there's an outreach program consisting of brochures, web videos, and social media for long-acting and permanent methods of contraception, then improved self-efficacy. Sorry, I can't speak right now. And then increased knowledge and attitudes about these contraceptions will, in the long run, lead to greater prevalence of use.
All right, so let's see. We're going to do an outreach program. It's going to have brochures, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's going to. What else was it going to have?
I'm sorry. Social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube. So web videos would be YouTube, but yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And anything else? I got lost.
That's what I have.
Okay,
Oh, that's what I have so far.
if outreach, well, you got quite a bit. If outreach consisting of brochures and web videos, let's do that for a moment. Then, all right, Ms. Bramlett, what do you want to, if I look at a video and don't stretch it and don't try to make it do what it can't do, what should the video do for me?
Well, it's going to increase knowledge and attitudes about certain contraception.
Let's don't push attitudes right now, but let's, knowledge, yes, definitely.
I'm sorry, what?
Right, I should be more aware of something that was shown to me or I read about in the brochure, that makes sense, okay? And then it's supposed to do what? Beyond that, you wanted self-efficacy?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know about you. You ever watch one of them cooking shows on TV? I got cutlery like that. See them chefs with that cutlery? And they,
Yeah.
Iron shut.
now, I watched them multiple times. I can't do it like that.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Very hard.
Now, I suspect if I had like, I don't know, 72 hours with a couple of naps and some sleep time in between, and that's all I did for the next 3 days, was take out one of those Ginsu knives or whatever they are, and I stood at my chopping board, my cutting board, and I would get better at it, right? But I wouldn't have gotten better by simply watching, right? You with me, Ms. Bramlett? You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Okay, so I don't want to try to make a video or a brochure do something it cannot do. But it's logical that it could do knowledge. Now, if I play my cards right and my brochure is good, my YouTube video is okay, there might be something for me to do that the video tells me to do next. Call for more instruction. Call for our special offer video. And if you call right now, we'll throw in 3 new knives. Okay, that's called a call to action. Okay? Most good advertising / outreach will have a call to action. If it's powerful enough, if it's clever enough, if it's colorful enough, it is possible to get intention to act on whatever that call to action is. I need to make that clear. So, Ms. Bramlett, you have at least 2 sections of why, based on the draft that you and I have been working on here together. Number 1, knowledge scales of essentially product level knowledge, which is not the same thing as the kind of knowledge Ms. Francois is seeking, nor Ms. Diaz. Because yours is briefer, it's less intense, right?
Right.
It can be held responsible for that which marketing, advertising, and outreach have been held responsible for the past, I don't know, 60 or so years. So you may draw on not only the outreach literature, but the advertising and marketing literature. Now, knowledge in the advertising field is either called product knowledge or it's sometimes called ad or message recall. So I'm looking at scales that measure product knowledge or ad recall, advertising recall, or persuasive message recall. And I'm looking for intention to act, intention to buy, intention to use. You with me, Ms. Bramlett?
Yes, sorry, I'm just writing it down.
Okay, good. Now, the literature on marketing, advertising, and more recently outreach and social marketing is also a place you might be looking at. That will be the literature to draw on to find the linkage that I'm describing in section Roman numeral 2 is why it's more important. Roman numeral 3. Is there any linkage in the literature? And the answer is yes, there is. You just need to give me specifics from marketing, advertising, outreach, social marketing.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you. That was helpful.
Okay, now Ms. Bramlett. Ms. Kate Hart asked earlier, how many scales should I put in? And the first response I had was, let's go look at the sample. And the sample is in the resources. The first one is under the S's under sample paper, and there you will find, I think it's 40 pages. I'm not saying you have to write 40 pages. I'm saying I have to get enough scales from you to convince me you know what you're doing.
Okay.
All right, and the burden of proof is you. All right, Ms. Bramlett,
Right.
ready to rock and roll?
Yes, I am.
Okay, the ladies will be at three, not daughters.
Three sisters. Ryan, I'll just text you. Does that work?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm sorry to say, Ms. Bramlett, there was a series of motion pictures entitled Daughters, Three Daughters.
Three grandma.
Yeah, they were. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bramlett, if I threw you off. It's up. Ms. Denley.
All right. I think I'm making progress,
Good.
but I still have some questions. So my working premise is, if visits with families, sites of museums in Rhode Island, including participatory tours, teaching programs, or hands-on activities, then satisfaction with experience and desire to return for a return visit to the site. So measuring a satisfaction scale and an intent to return, intent to act, but there seems to be intent to return that I found in some tourism literature.
And I like, and I had a student do something similar to this. The literature wasn't nearly as refined as it is now, but he was trying to tell me about museums.
Right.
And parks and so forth.
Yep, I
So you're in the right place.
Some heritage sites and national parks.
Absolutely.
Now, if I'm looking at a broad scale of historic sites and museums in Rhode Island, as opposed to
Broad
one-
range.
Sorry, a broad array, as opposed to one specific site. When I go to explain the process, obviously it will vary if they go to Hugshell Farm and have a living history versus if they
For
go
that, Ms.
to.
Devlin, you may use your park or historic site as choice.
Okay, so I can use one as an example.
So that I understand what your time is. Because if you do that, what you will accomplish is this. When you do it where you want. Now, I'll know exactly what you're looking for. All right? Are you finding this?
I am.
Good.
I found the sort of model scales.
I'll let that one go
back.
It is, and I hate it.
Oh.
Well, it's cumbersome. And, but it's just legit. But I think you can also find, in the art and museum literature, other kinds of people. Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
your premise, sir.
My premise. Okay, the premise is, if an outreach program is created in Rhode Island using digital and print media on public transportation, RIPTA, then there will be an increase in the number of people who get vaccinated, thus leading them to have an immune system response.
Okay, let's go back to heat and boil. Heat the water, make it boil, make rice, and then cut.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm doing outreach like signs on the side of Rick buses. And I want to get people getting more vaccinations.
Yes.
Okay, so are they going to walk up to the sign on the bus and go, stick me?
No.
That's not the way it works, is it?
No.
No. The only way I get vaccinated is to go get vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
All right, so what I want is more people to know about it.
Yes.
And go there.
Yeah.
And release intent. I cannot make a billboard, a sign on a RIPTA bus, or that electric sign over on 146 which changes and drives me nuts.
I can specify.
I guess it's intended for the morning crowd because they're not moving very fast. Any billboard, any flyer, that's all it is, right? You can't make it do more than you can do.
I can specify what I want to do.
Right? Because vaccinations are not going to come to the bus.
Okay.
On the side of the bus.
Okay.
Or any building, right? It doesn't make any sense.
So the way my program would work is on the bus. I actually got this idea when I was on the bus. I was on the bus and there was ad placements, digital and print through like paper. And my intention is to put some sort of advertisement there saying where you can get vaccinations. So they'll see it, and then hopefully they get the attention back.
Well, we want to make the signage, the flyers, brochure,
Yes.
first of all, attention grabbing,
Yes.
all right? And then we want to make it informative,
Yes.
informative studies. And then we want to have a call to action.
Yes.
Call down, get your cadet, call your doctor, do something.
Yeah.
Right? We need you to have that in there.
Yeah.
Right, that's an outreach and advertising program, so you're like Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Just touch skills, knowledge and intention. And Mr. Pierce, I think is a fine idea. I love the topic. You guys do it for Kevin?
That's what I want to do.
I want you to do that too, yeah, that's what I asked.
Yeah.
I've got people doing stuff like
Okay.
that. We've never gone as far as RIP.
Okay.
We've got people doing outreach all the time. All right? Because you were pretty specific about using RIP.
Yes.
As long as we're waiting on the boom mic, let's try to make ourselves heard, shall we?
Yeah. So my premise is if affordable housing adds a program to improve case management, and then we increase the use of resources, improve health management, and increase the sense of resident well-being and a positive impact on common management.
Ooh, my Christmas stocking is ready to be stuffed. The presents are gathered all in, boy, that's important. Good. Let's make it happen, case management.
Well, I tried to be wise.
Case management.
No, if you were saying it's a condition.
Wait a minute, let me get, let's talk about the process. All right, I got a person that's who's doing case management. So, Ms. Polanco is my case. Ms. Polanco needs stuff. All right? She comes into the office, comes to the case manager.
More than one way. So there's office hours and there's outreach.
Okay. Wait a minute.
And
So Ms.
advertising.
Blanco comes in, hold on, wait a minute. We're all, listen to the terms you're using. I didn't hear case management anywhere in there till, I didn't hear. Did you hear this about it? I didn't. Advertising. Her office. Stop. Here's Mrs. Blanco from Youth Services. And I'm going to help coordinate that. Correct?
Correct.
That's what I'm gonna do. Now.
Coordinate it and provide it.
Okay, so Ms. Blanco comes in, she says, I need counseling. I said, all right, Ms. Blanco, let me write that down. All right, I'm gonna help you get that. Sit right here on my couch. Let me get my note. Now tell me your problems.
So I'm sorry, coordinate it and provide the resources to access.
Referrals.
Referrals.
Okay. Now, you know what we call that? I know, case management. But in the broader sense, you know what it is? Aren't I helping Ms. Blanco?
Yes.
Ms. Blanco comes in and says, I got this whole series of problems, and you say, no, you come to the right place, Ms. Blanco. Here's a list of names. Will you take this with you? Now wait, I need to make some phone calls for you, set some appointments to see that you get there. Here's what I want you to be able to do. I want you to go see the nutritionist. I want you to go see the pediatrician, whoever, here are the names, I'm gonna call right now and help, right? And I wanna follow up with you in a couple of days to see if we need more help. Case management? That sound like case management?
Yes. So my 2A speaks of that. In my outline.
Okay. That sound like what I was saying?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if it said essentially what, that's good.
Okay.
Now, you threw in this outreach business. Now, outreach is a term that tends to be elastic. People pull it and stretch it.
Right.
I'm reaching out to you today, Mr. Pierce.
Yes.
To see if you're okay.
I'm okay.
Or I could do outreach. Ms. Bim, I want you to read my Stop Smoking brochure. Right? So let's not be plastic with it. Tell me what that is. We still want to do it?
I didn't actually include outreach.
Okay. But you did earlier in the list, so that's why I put it in. So take that out. All right, we're not doing that. We're doing all these things where Ms. Blanco or someone like her comes in, tells me about what problems she has, and you say, or I say, whatever, yes, we can work with you here. We have several resources that can help with these kinds of problems. Let me make you aware of them. Here's the stuff, let me talk to you about them, I'm gonna make phone calls for you, we'll set you up with appointments. Okay? Then I can call the physician or her and find out later, did you go, what was your experience, what else do you need, I'm here to help, right?
Right.
Okay, so if I'm helping somebody, whether it's a restaurant, health marketing, health, what she just said. The result is, yes, ma'am. Don't make it, try to do something you can't.
Okay.
Now, all this other good stuff you had in there, great impacts. Okay? And I got a lot of rungs in the ladder to put first before I can start getting out there from all that other stuff. So you don't want to go there.
Okay.
Right? Stay on the ladder where we're building. Now, Ms. Walters,
Yes.
if you go forward, can you do that as I guess then?
Yes.
Good, I like your positive attitude. Ms. Capehart,
Yes.
have we worked on yours yet?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it.
I've come full circle. All right, I asked you to go onto the art cloud, right?
Yes.
Are you still on it? Ms. Bramlett, Ms. Prescott, go to the art cloud, or you will find SPSS.
I'm here.
Okay, I want you to go to SPSS on the art cloud.
Where is that?
Go to programs, go to the little start button on the, see where I am? Like the start button in the art cloud, you go there.
Oh.
Or you go to all programs.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. S.
Should be.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Are you there?
Which one is it? Is it IBMS?
That's it.
Statistics 23. Can you?
Where are you?
Can we have a license or just the regular
I
one?
don't want the license, I want the spreadsheet.
Oh.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
IBM. Oh.
This is IBM.
The bottom one. The bottom one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Just... Yep, so champion.
Hard to stay here.
Can I come look at yours?
Yeah, sure.
I won't cough on you.
Did you try your password?
Yes.
Maybe you don't. Yeah, but...
What I do?
Type in your graduate for you. Your academics.
What is it again? 924.
Yes. Okay. Academics at RWU. And then your password is your Windows.
Academics at RWU?
I searched it at the top and I found it. Oh, nice. I'm still on that.
I'm like-
I haven't touched it.
Okay, I was like.
No, I can't get in.
I'm gonna just keep
I don't want to make it.
That'll just. What? What's that? Okay.
So just put S.
It's in there. I did same thing with Pierce. Hexameter, soda load, there's a lot of code in it.
Sorry.
Great. This is one reason you want the article. Recently, as last month, that was version 22. Now it's
Ah.
Yeah, I was trying to find that.
Or a little window popping up saying code or local.
Alright.
I'm just gonna make
Get the red X up there.
just close,
Okay.
ignore it.
Right, thank you
Ignore it.
very much.
Alright.
Go again. I
Alright.
don't want that. I want that. Red X.
Get rid of that one.
Yep.
Oh,
Okey dokey.
Alright.
Now, pardon me. Let us observe the screen closely. Yours looks like this too, right? Okay. Now note at the bottom, on the right-hand side, left-hand side, highlighted yellow is there.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Does yours say variable view?
Yes.
Okay.
My yellow says data view.
Put it on variable view. Guys, everybody on variable view, Mrs. Okima?
I don't know what this is going on.
Oh, you gotta exit out all that.
Yeah.
What does it want us to do?
I know.
Read it right. Is this yours or just this?
This is mine. This is my file.
No,
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right, Dan, X that off.
Yeah.
Okay, X that off right here.
It actually sounds
There.
like it's just like.
All right.
Yeah, I just.
Okay, everybody's got variable view, right? Okay. Yeah. I'm not trying to make you an expert, particularly at this hour. But I want you to be familiar with it starting tonight. I do not expect you to master it, but I want you to become more and more comfortable with it as we move on. All right? So, let's assume for a moment that you've been successful in locating the important scales you need for Y. All right?
Yeah.
Now, you want to be able to gather data with Y, and then you want to be able to analyze those data, correct? All right. So Y is one of the variables. So let's, can I turn the light back on? You know, see keyboard and type too, so I'll turn it off in a second. All right, so I'm in variable view, I'm in row 1, essentially cell 1, I'm in name. You in there? Okay, so here's what we're going to say. Let's take Ms. Diaz, self-efficacy scales, all right? So there are all kinds of self-efficacy scales. There's one from Rosenberg, that's 9. That's from 1933. Let's see. All right. So the first thing you have to do is name the variable, what you're going to call it. This is the way it will appear in the data set. I'll show you that in a second. Okay? So then, the next thing we have to do is right arrow key, move over still. Now, it says type of variable. Note that the first choice, the default, the one that comes up for you is numeric, right? Now you can choose others. Don't.
How did you get there?
It autofill.
Yeah,
Go
it's
next.
autofill. How did I get this little
There
screen?
you go, right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
I go in right here,
You have to get this one. You have to press it.
all right?
Okay.
Now, it says width. It's already got a number in there, right?
Yep.
Leave it alone.
Okay.
decimals. Now, we were talking earlier about content of the various scales. Ms. Diaz and several others were doing self-efficacy, I think. Ms. Bramlett, no, she was doing it. You're going to have categories that are going to be 1 to 5, 1 to 7, or 1 to 9, right? And that's going to yield you whole numbers to make ratings. All right, so I don't want any decimals. Now, Mr. Zito and Ms. Blanco tried to sign in for her own trial, but she can't get in there. She was doing it correctly as far as I could.
Okay. I'm providing an email and
And, right now, here in the label, Ms. Francois, Ms. Bramlett, are you with me? Can you see all this?
I am.
Okay, are you on our cloud all right?
Yes, I am. I'm following.
Excellent. Ms. Francois, are you on the R cloud?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you can see what I'm doing?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Now, where it says label, here's where you can type in the entire item, the entire statement, put in there if you want to. All right? Which I recommend, because when you get the printout, you come back and you can tell what it is that you want to guess what did I mean by self-efficacy, for example? So I'm going to say shortcut. I'm going to say self-efficacy. And I can have spaces in label. I cannot have spaces in the name. All right? You with me, Ms. Kayhart?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go to the next column. It says values. Default is none. Well, we're going to have values, aren't we? We're going to have return line. Okay, so the first value is going to be 1, and the label that goes with that is I'm making this up here. Okay? The process is going to be the same, but this is, I'm making these all up. Okay? 2 is going to be disagreed.
Oh. Strongly disagree. So what is it?
Yes, 2 is disagreed. 3 is typically. Let me finish and I'll turn it back on.
Sorry, but.
Okay, no worries.
4 is going to be 3. 5 is going to be strongly agreed. And you've all seen surveys, I use that term loosely, with these categories, right?
Yes.
All right. There are some scales that you do 1 to 5. That's very typical, but you'll also see 1 to 7. I've even seen 1 to 10. Okay? But the process would be the same. It's going to want to know what these numbers that you're going to put into the data set mean. And then we say, okay. Now, the next column is missing. All right. That means what value you're going to put into the data set when somebody hasn't completed the answer, has found the answer, scratched it out, started another one. You can't be sure which they really did first. Didn't bother to answer. Would be another reason. We typically use a value that is out of the range of possible answers. The possible answers in our current case is 1 to 5. So we're going to choose discrete. We're going to say this is going to be the single number we're going to use every time we find a missing data in this set. It's going to be called 9. Now we use 9. This is an old-fashioned sort of default. If you look at your keyboard, you'll see that the 9 is way up to the right. If you're doing touch typing, you have to really read with your whole finger. That's why we use 9 more often than not. Leave columns alone, leave a line alone. Now we come to measurement. We're interested only in scales. Okay? Now, we turn out the light. Everybody can see this?
Yes.
Measures look like this?
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm going to direct your attention with my cursor, you follow me with yours, to where that little blue tab is next to variable view and click on.
Oh.
Okay? And you see what it's done. Now that you're in the data set, this is where your data are going to go. Right? It's taken the name that you've given the variable, turned it into a column. Okay? So we had 1 to 5 as possible answers, right? Yes. Okay, let's say the first one is 1. So I get the first instrument back from the first person, and item 1 of self-efficacy comes back as a 1. I know that because he or she circled 1, Xed off 1, indicated 1, however I told that person to do it, that's where the 1 came from. And a student asked me once, when you go back from variable view to the data view, why doesn't it populate? Because it doesn't know what the data are. It doesn't self-populate, you put it in. So each row is a person, a respondent, a unit of analysis. Each column becomes a variable. So we would follow the same pattern we did with self-efficacy 1. And we would do this. I'm making this up here. I didn't say no variables in each of these. Okay? Let's say that's the data response set from the first person. Now we go to the second person. So I've taken the instrument, let's say it's the old-fashioned paper and pencil. I got the first instrument back from Ms. Capehart, and I don't need her name. I put a 1 on there, that's person number 1, circle it in red, turn it face down, I got a person number 2. Could be Ms. Devlin's, don't need her name on it. Then I put in Ms. Devlin's responses. Okay, then I circle, put a 2, and circle, face down, I go to 3. I'm going to do the same pattern throughout. Everybody with me?
What? I got one.
Okay.
Yeah, you go first.
So this is
I
two
missed
people with
Yeah.
4 questions each?
Yeah.
That's their answer.
Yes.
Why does mine have the zeros behind it? I know some of yours do too, like the one.
Because in some of the cases that default is 0 variables, the decimal point, some places it's not, because whoever's in here before messed with it.
Okay, because.
But the issue is for, it doesn't really matter that you've got decimals in it, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to read. Now, in terms of what I just said about putting number 1 and circling it, okay, I want to do that in case I've made a data entry. I can go back and find it, know which one it came from, go fix it. Then we do one more just as an illustration. So this is person number 3. So it's Ms. Polanco. Let's say Ms. Polanco failed to answer 2 of the questions. So not having any responses. What's the number I use?
9.
Right. So when you're in the literature and you're seeking these scales for Y only, and I ask for the content, you want to be thinking in the back of your head, all right, here's what I need to let him know. Does it look like this? And I can put in this data set, the variable view, and then translate it into SPSS. The answer is generally going to be yes. Let's take one that's not, just to illustrate. Suppose I have, would not be the best way to set up your data set, but let's suppose that I ask age of the respondents. Age of the middle of the study. Okay. I don't have any values because we're using years. Nobody needs to know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with age. It's either year or it's not. Missing data. All right. I'm going to use a discrete number. I'm going to use a 99 because it's unlikely I'm going to have a 99-year-old person. Contrarily, it's possible you could use 9 because 9 may be outside the range of the people that you are working with. You know, like adults are getting your outreach message. Okay? Then, of course, we want to use 10. All right? So I would go back and grade, let's say person number 1 was 15, person number 2 was 28, person number 3 was 66. Let's take it. Now, first thing you do is set up the variable view page. It structures your data view page so that you can put the data. Now, I said to you earlier, the kinds of scales that you're looking for most often, given the self-efficacy, given satisfaction, intention scales, are all going to be summated ratings. They're going to be multiple items. We're going to have 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 10 responses. So we would put them in. Each item is a variable. Each statement is a variable. Each response is a variable of value. Right? You see this over here? Transformation. Okay? Right? So it says compute.
Yes.
Is it an addition of computation with level? Okay? So the first thing it wants is, what are you going to call this new summated value? Because I don't have it. Do it. Okay, let's say sum. Right? No spaces. Right? So here we go. We want to do a sum, right? Well, sum, look, it's already given us a little keypad. Okay, so what is it we're going to tell it we want to sum? Well, we want to take item number 1. We want it to add to number 2. And then we want to add that to number 3. And then we want to add that to number 4. And then we want to add that to number 5. Do we want to put age in there? No, because that's not one of the items. Now, whether it had 4 items or it had 15 or even 30, we would do it the same way. We're going to take each item from this list that you created in variable view, put it over here in this computation window and tell SPSS, here are the items I want you to sum X, right, or sum. All right? So now, let's see what happens. Okay, look what it tells me. It executed my summation. Hey. I don't need it.
Dr. Hall.
So if we, no, I don't. Hold on this. No. All right. Look. There's our new variable. It's the summed values of all the items in the scale that I wanted. So now it's created a new variable. That's the one I want to work with. Then I can go to analyze and do all kinds of different things with analyze, like do descriptive statistics, mean, medians, and modes, and so on. I can do counts, I can do frequencies. And I'll respond to your question.
In this example, would we still add the first column, self-efficacy, even though those numbers represent the anonymous people?
Yes.
So we would still add that, and that would still...
Absolutely. You can make, it doesn't matter that they're anonymous, it just matters that I have a representation of their responses.
Yeah, what I mean is that in adding it with the variables, then it changes the average. So if I only want the average of the 4 variables...
Oh, yes. You would want the summated value of all the items. All I gave you was an example of 4. You will have self-efficacy. You're not frequently going to find a 4-item scale. I'm just doing it to illustrate the point. But the extension is that you would do it exactly the same way. Whatever the items are, whatever their numbers are, 15, 20, that's what you tell SPSS by putting them in that computation, and here's what I want you to add. And then as soon as you do that, it creates the variable for you. Ta-da! Then it's simply point and click, right?
Yeah.
I want you to take it with you. I want you to obsess over it, but I want you to recognize that from here on out, when we're talking about scales, in the back of your head, that's where I'm going. That's the software I'm going to use. That's why you want our cloud. None of us are willing to pay $1,500 for a new license for SPSS, right? So that's why they are cloud. Let's see if we can get yours fixed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to our announcement page for some final wrap-up issues. No, I don't want this. Thank you. I don't like procedures. All right, so right, let's go to the announcement page, and announcements for Weekly portfolio contest, it should confirm what I have in the slide. Along with the total number of assignments to log, like logging. No. People have, yes,
I'm a crazy blog this
knock yourself out. You said,
Crazy.
I like you, I like that stuff.
So I think the only difference on there, Dr. Hall, is,
So again, please.
I think the only difference on that form is we have December 8th as the case analysis, kind of reflection and case analysis.
Here we go, we'll move them around. Force meeting days. Okay, today is October 27th, so we have two meeting days left.
Oh. God, no.
Time, going so fast.
I know. The same thing when we started this course about the summer, where they came from. Now we're in the middle of this semester, and where did it go? Well, the football season is going. Bang! All right, so on November 10, let's be prepared to get any further updates. Following the outline, Mrs. Devlin, you look keen.
Great shot. Time's going by so fast.
Well, it does, it has a way of doing that. So, we want to use it wisely, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, November 10th, let's rock and roll with some updates. And then, questions about exam assignment, et cetera. We should be in a row, right? Right? I'm going to turn off the meeting, okay? Ms. Bramlett and Ms. Transwell, do you have any questions before we close up shop?
No, Dr. Hall, the midterm was due on the 18th, the midterm reflection.
Can you make out what you
She's
said?
talking about the midterm was due on the 18th, the one that was due on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
So
it?
the midterm reflection was due October 18th.
That's, yeah.
Yes, the midterm reflection is S2. Is that your question, Ms. Francois?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Bramlett, do you have any questions?
No questions for me.
All right then. We will close up shop and I will see you online.
We're gonna talk to you about May 4th.
Okay, and I was going to say, will I get a email or forum update about May 4th? So I'm going to turn off the recording